Hi trainers, we got a super interesting new leak from El Chico Eevee. They've been going ham on these data mines and they found a new image showing a possible new battle item. We recently got 3 new held items, which I am still running tests on, so it's super cool that there is a possible new battle item. Disclaimer, this is a data mine, so do take it with a grain of salt, as Pokemon Unite can always scrap this and not release it. It is called Controller, and it's literally an image of a controller. I wanted to come on here and discuss it with you, what you think it could be. For the question of the day, what do you think the new battle item is? Let me know in the comments down below. So personally for me, I feel like it could be a ward of some sort. Maybe you can control something and it acts like a ward in the game. For those new to MOBAs, wards are ways you can see what the enemy is doing or their positioning, and usually they will pop up on the map if they're in the ward's range. Wards are super useful because it gives you information that you wouldn't usually have, and these can help you in deciding when to retreat or when to fight. Wards are insanely important in other MOBAs where this info can literally turn the game around for you. If these are wards, I would like to use this as a video as a mini ward guide on the possible best places to ward on the map. Generally, this should work in grass areas too, where you will normally not have any vision of any enemies in it unless you're also in the grass. At the moment, you can see if an enemy is on Zapdos, Dreadnought or Rotom just by using your camera. Their health would drain if an enemy is attacking them. My rule of thumb for Zapdos and Dreadnought usually is to be around those areas anyway, but I will talk about this in the next clip. If this is a ward, I will be releasing an in-depth warding guide, so feel free to subscribe and click the bell. But for now, let's just jump into places that could be a good place to ward as like a little general guideline, even though we don't know if it's a ward yet. So 2 things I want you to keep in mind is that we don't know the radius of these wards. I think this might be like a good indicator, like this maybe is like the range of it, and we don't know how much we can see either. But if these are wards, I think this is probably the size of where you can ward. And we also don't know the cooldown of the ward as well, so that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, at the start of the game, when you're in top lane, I think a good place to ward at the start might be like in this grass here, because the core fish in the middle here is always contested, so this might be a good place to ward. But do keep in mind that, well, to be fair, actually, the enemy jungler sometimes will just like go up here to hide before they gank. Otherwise, another good place that you could ward if you wanted to catch the jungler who generally uses the jump pad, you could ward like here as well. So that's another place you could ward just to see or catch the enemy jungler, or you could do it like right here as well, because they usually would just come through this entrance. But sometimes the jungler does just go through like this way as well. So yeah, these are just ideas. Obviously, like when it is out and if it is a ward, I will have a better idea of strategies, but those are just 2 things I have in mind. For bottom lane, pretty much like the same thing almost. You could ward here for like enemy jungler ganks. You could also ward in this grass as well, because sometimes the enemy jungler will hide here. And early game, that is very contested, so like enemies usually are like in this area unless they're coming down from this way. You could also like ward here. Sometimes enemies will like to go for the steal, so if I'm playing Lucario, I usually like to come through here and try to steal, but usually you would know that they're there because you would see them go through, but that's just an idea as well. What I would suggest, if you're going for Dreadnought, you could just like put your wards in here because enemies would usually hide there, and as long as you have a ward there, you know an enemy's not going to be hiding there because they can't use it. But if you are taking Dreadnought, or if you've cleared all the enemies in this area, you could just put it in here because enemies will be running back down through here to try and steal Dreadnought from you. So if you are playing on like defense, basically, like you want to defend Dreadnought, you can put it here once all the enemies are taken out. So that is an idea. So for Zapdos, you can actually ward like maybe in these grass areas. These are good places to ward because usually enemies would be hiding in here. If they're defending Zapdos, they probably are just hiding in here waiting for you to come. So you could just ward here instead of wasting a skill to check if they're there, because you might need that skill for like a potential team fight here. So I would suggest possibly warding in these places. And that's pretty much it. There are a lot of other ward strategies you have to consider as well. Like I will leave that in an in-depth guide, but like if your first 2 goals got taken, then that does change the warding game a bit. If you're like playing on like more a defensive thing, if you're playing on more like attacking as well, then the warding game would change a bit as well. But as I said, I will leave that in like an in-depth warding guide. Okay, so that was just like a little guide. I really do hope it's wards because I find wards to be so valuable in MOBAs. And right now, the most used battle item is eject button, with like some other items like Fluffy Tail, Gold Getter maybe, but it's super niche like on Crustle, and Full Heal. So those are like the battle items that I would say are used. The rest aren't used that often. That's just my opinion though. If you for competitive play, that's all I see being used. I think putting wards into the game would be a game changer, so I would really like to see that. And I personally feel that they may be picked up by defenders or supporters most likely. And yeah, okay, so that's all for today's video. Subscribe and click the bell for more Pokemon Unite guides, news and gameplays. Like the video if you would like to see wards in the game. Thank you so much for watching, trainers. Bye!